ברשות קהל הקדוש, everybody welcome. בעזרת השם, ברכה, הצלחה. לכל המסובים של ברכה, הצלחה, רפואה שלמה, יעקב בן אשר, קריאו דניאל בן מיכאל, זיווג הכהן, ניסים, שלום, בן בכור בריס, שהתחתן בשנה הזה בעזרת השם יתברך. כל המסובים, כל המסתובבים, שהקדוש ברוך הוא תשפיע עליכם איכות של חסד, בריאות, הרבה נחת וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. 1000 הבדלות בין המתים לחיים לעילוי נשמת. This is sure sponsor by Mr. אליהו פתחוב, שהקדוש ברוך הוא send them זיווג הכהן בעזרת השם. His mother's רבקה בת מזל לעילוי נשמת, רוח השם תנחנה בגן עדן היא וכל השוכבים עמה בכלל רחמים והסליחות וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. וגם את ארום הרחמים בן המזל הלוי וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. So it says over here in Pirkei Avot, we're counting in Pirkei Avot, we keep going with the Mishnah. So the Chazal says, v'tikvat enosh rima. Says the hope for the humanity is the warm. שנאמר בקהלת, וישוב העפר אל הארץ שהיה מרוח תשוב אל האלוקים אשר נתנה. So it says the body is going to go deteriorated inside the afar, inside the earth. And the neshama is going to go to the Elokim, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. אמרו בילקוט שם, מתי תשוב רוח אל האלוקים אשר נתנה, שישאב גול אל האפר כמו שהיה. Says when is the body, when we're going to deposit the body after 120, we're going to deposit it to the earth. Then afterwards, what's going to happen? We're going to give the neshama to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. בזוהר הקדוש מובהר, כתוב בעדר ביור בחסד לאברהם. It says זוהר הקדוש following. בזה לשונו, כל זמן שהגוף קיים בקבר, זוהר הקדוש says, all the time, the body inside the grave, inside the ground, אין רוח נשמה נכנס למונחתן בגן עדן. He says the neshama, ורוח is not going to the גן עדן עליון. ואם תאמר אין כן יעקב, מלכי בית דוד, נחתמים בבשרם קיים. He says Yaakov and מלכי בית דוד, says the king, the rulership of coming from the house of the David HaMelech. The flesh is inside the ground, it's still there. וכן צדיקים לעולם כגון רבי אחי בר אושיה, שבת קנ"ג, קנ"ב. In מסכת שבת in 152 page says, רבי אושיה, רבי אחי בר אושיה, the way he was buried, they were plowing the field, he was the same thing. Nothing happened to the body. So how the Zohar says, if a person, he gives his body, after 120, he's get buried, he needs to deteriorate. We see from here for tzaddikim, the only way he's going to go is nefesh, ruach, neshama v'ruach, upstairs to the Gan Eden, only if the body is deteriorated. She'en harkat sholet bahem. He says for the tzaddikim, Rav Achaya, Yaakov Avenu, Malchei Bet David, it says that the body is not get deteriorated. Nisharim bagufam, the way the body is, that's the way. Yatsa scharam be'efsedam. He says from here we see, it's not good. According to the Zohar, it's not good. Shelo yachlu nishama v'ruach leikanes lemechitzatan b'gan eden. Nefesh ruach nishama, ruach v'nishama not able to go to the Gan Eden. So how can we able to answer the Zohar HaKadosh? אמנם נראה שדווקא גוף ההוא אינו ראוי מפני רוע מעליו בקנאה ושנאה. Says, what kind of body, if he's going to keep staying inside the ground and is not become deteriorated, whoever have a קנאה ושנאה, jealousy and hatred. אז צריך גוף לדון במשפט. The body also needs to be get mishpat, which means be judged. תכתיב יצר רימה ומכוסה התולעה. It says the body comes everything. The worms and maggots are eating the body. ואי-אפשר רוח יתלבש ברוח הקודש עליונה. He says once the body in this world, the neshama not able to go to the Gan Eden. אלא עד ירצה את העונש מעלים הרעים. The body also needs to get punished. What's the punishment for the body? The punishment is for the body that it gets deteriorated, and the maggots and the worms are eating the body. וכן רוח סובל, הצד הזה שהוא ערום. He says the neshama feels that he's empty. Upstairs, he does not go to the spiritual body. כמו שכתוב בזוהר, דבי נשמתין ערטלין, כהנים נידון לגיהנום. He says the neshama, as long as the body is not deteriorated in this earth, the neshama is getting punished in the gehenom. Ulam ish asher ma'asav aguni v'yesharim. What if a person works on his jealousy and works on his hatred? Haguf nirkav ma'er v'oseh afar. He says his body gets deteriorated fast and quick, and he becomes part of the sand. When he becomes part of the sand, if he works on his body, which means he works on his midot, he works on his jealousy, he works on his hatred. ואם אינו גופו לרצון קונו, יזכה ללבוש רוחני שהוא אפילו בחיים חיותם. He says, if a person able to, while he's living, he's able to have his part of the neshama to be connected to the Gan Eden. שכן זה מיד אחר המוות. He says, after he passed away, right away he's going to go to the Gan Eden. והגוף לא יקבנו כלל. His body is not going to stop him to go to the Gan Eden. מטעם זה מצינו רבי אלעזר ברבי שמעון. Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon happened the situation. Baba Metzia, for 22 years, his wife did not bury him. He was upstairs in the aron, inside the closet. All the tshuvot sheilot, all the questions and answers that's supposed to be come to him, used to come and answer, and he used to go back to sleep. For 22 years, he was not buried. Okay? Who? The Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai's son. שלא יקב גופו אותו שנים עמד בלי קבורה. Says, what happens? He does not go to Gan Eden Elyon because they didn't bury him. לפי דברי זוהר פירוש הגאון ברקלי לב בספר מרקי לב, מה שינו שתקוות אנוש רימה. He says, תקווה, which means the hope of the humanity, is the worms. שתקוותו גוף יאבד כשהנשמה תשיג עיקר תענוג של עולם הבא. Says the body is nothing. The most important thing is the what is the neshama. But without the body, we cannot do mitzvot in this world. The body is going to be part of the neshama. So the Chazal says the most important thing, ta'anug, we ate right now, we have an enjoyment. We party right now, we have an enjoyment. But that's temporarily. Chazal says the neshama, he gets the enjoyment forever. Where is it? In a share in the world to come. It says the only way his body gets deteriorated quick, fast, inside the grave. כתב הגאון יעבץ בלחם שמיים, ידקדק לומר שתקוות עונש רימה. Gaon Yabed says, he says, all the tikva, hope of the humanity, is a rima, which means a worm. Why it says, does not call him as a human, as a Adam, Adam which means a man. כי בימי בעונש חחל, בקרות בשם, עונש עצמו מן הטועים, לפי גודל עוונו נגזר עליו עונש ברימה. Masechet Shabbat in page 118, it says, the more person sins, the greater is the punishment is. ותולה, אבל האדם אף על שבחטאו את מיתה הייתה כפרתו לא עונש ברמה. He says, if a person does not sin, his punishment is much, much less. Amruba Babatra. It says Masechet Babatra in page 58. שתי עקביו דומות לשני גלגלי חמה. It says, Adam Arishon, heel, it's like two suns that we have in this world. Two suns, like a sun that shines. בספר צמח דוד, העיד שמלכי אומות העולם שהיו כשרים נמצא שלמים מקיימים כמותה שנים אחר מותם. He says, what is he talking about? Other Gentiles, which is Goys, they keep 7 mitzvot of Noah. The body is not deteriorated inside the grave. That's what the Chazal says. So we go on another topic in Pirkei Avot, chapter 4, Mishnah 4. Mishnah 4, chapter 4. Somebody is desecrating God's name privately. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to announce him publicly. What does it mean? Person walks around with kippah, he cursing. Person walks around, drive with the kippah, he cuts everybody off. Okay? So this is called Chilul Hashem. Chazal says the only way we're able to forgive for the sin of the Chilul Hashem, desecrating God's name publicly or privately. We're going to understand what does it mean privately and publicly. Only the way is going to through mitah. Mitah, which means through the death. V'chen amru basotah daf gimel. Masechet Sotah in page 3 says, Tanya ha'evi Rabbi Meir omer. Rabbi Meir says following. Adam over avira baseter. A person does a sin privately. Kogon isha prutza overet baseter. Rashi says, a woman that's not supposed to be with a man, she's a married woman. And she goes in a closed doors, nobody sees it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu machrif az alav bagalui. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealed the sin of the woman. What does it mean, reveal the sin of the woman? Shinatam balibo shel ha'ba'al lekanot la. HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts in a husband's heart that he should be jealous of his wife. Az davar miparsem bagalui. Then he needs to take her to Bet HaMikdash. Then they need to give her a bit of waters. And like this, everybody would know what kind of sin that she did. Shenemar va'alav ruach va'avar alav ruach kina. Like the verse says, the jealousy went over him. Ve'en avara el lashon achraza. What is this? It went over him. The Chazal says, pronounce it. What does it mean, pronounce it? Shenemar va'yetze Moshe va'evir kol ba'machaneh. Like it talks about the Moshe Rabbeinu, when he wants to speak, what he does, he announces. כתב תוספות יום טוב באמת כל המעשה בסתר אין כאן חילול השם. תוספות יום טוב says חילול השם, if somebody did in a private doors, which is means in closed doors, it's not חילול השם, desecrating God's name publicly. חילול השם היינו דווקא שהוא חוטא אחרים לומדים ממנו. תוספות יום טוב says, what does this mean חילול השם, desecrating God's name publicly? He does a sin, everybody learns from him. So he says, right here, he goes to Shul, he goes to Bet HaKnesset, he does it for many years. If Chas v'Shalom he sins, everybody is learning from him, and they're sinning also. אומר רבנו עבדיה, לא משכחת חילול השם בסתר, אלא באווירה של העריות. Chazal says that somebody does the Chilul Hashem, desecrating God's name, in an arayot. Arayot, which means in a forbidden relationship. נעשה בצירוף לזולתו, שהאישה הייתה דינה בעצמו, אין איסור כל כך בדבר. The woman says, it's not a big deal to go חס ושלום cheat on her husband. הוא רצונו בכך. He says, that's the way I want it. ויש חילול השם בדבר. He says, this is desecrating God's name publicly and privately. אבל אוכל איסור ביחידי כיוצא בזה לא הביא חילול השם. What if a person eats non-kosher food in a private doors? It's not considered חילול השם, desecrating God's name. מעשה בחסיד אחד is a beautiful story that he gives over here. One חסיד היה גולה מעיר לעיר לקבל עליו צר גלות. There was a one chassid used to go to the one city to another city in order for him to accept upon himself exile. What does it mean? Once the Bet HaMikdash is destroyed, okay, we all over the galut, we're all over the exile. So this is the chassid wants to take the tsar, the pain and suffering of galut upon himself. בדרך הלכו היה עוסק בתורה לא הספיק בפומה בגרסה. Used to go from city to city. Right now we have in Eretz Israel, it's also, he took upon himself, you could Google it, his name, Rav Yaakov Ades. Rav Yaakov Ades took upon himself in a galut, his all day by Kotel Ma'aravi, by the Western Wall. He wrote about, I think, 200 books. 200 books. He's alive. Yeah, you could Google his name. Yeah. And when he prays, when he davens, he screams and he cries. And Rav Yaakov Ades, and he walks with the tzitzit all day and almost barefooted. Okay? He eats when you come, he lives in a yeshiva somewhere downstairs. What he does He eats rice and water quick for like 2-3 minutes and that's it. And he took the galut upon himself, exile. Same thing as the Chassid over here, he took the galut upon himself. Okay? I don't recommend you guys to do it because if somebody would do it, they're going to get depressed and chas v'shalom, they could kill themselves. Okay? That's not everybody could do it. A lot of people want to do tshuva, but the tshuva has to be properly. So let's go with the... Does he learn all day? There's no question about it. Okay? He sleeps by like 10-15 minutes and he wakes up, that's it. You know, like in Nayana, we had a bed when we came from the welfare office, was giving us a bed, like this type of bed he has. Maybe also without the sheets. Okay. In Israel, yeah. Yeah, Rav Yaakov Ades. He has 10-15 kids. Yeah, he has kids. His father is a Rav Chaim Ades, very known family in Eretz Israel, Beit Vagan. His father is a Rosh Yeshiva. They have maybe 200 people learning in the yeshiva. Yeah. The grandfather also, the Talmidei Chamim. Okay. So let's go forward. So this Chassid wants to take upon himself galut. Galut, which just means exile. What does it mean, exile? He's going to travel from city to city. When he was traveling city to city, he was always learning Torah. He came to one city, and they invite him as a guest, this chassid. They invite this chassid to the balabait house, to somebody's house. Okay? He was very rich. The guy that invited the guests, he was very rich. And that's what he had a mitzvah. The mitzvah bring all the time orchim, guest. Okay? He also, when you invite the guest, used to greet him with a smile. If you come to somebody else's house and you're all of a sudden screaming, or the wife is screaming, the Chazal says, Masechet Shabbat, that means they don't want guests. Nobody wants to be guest that somebody is what? Not smiling. Or you're doing a favor that he's coming to your house. Okay? So if you do something, do 100%. 100%. Don't do 50%. Don't do somebody a favor. Okay? So the Chazal says, Vayavol Bait, Vikablu Basefer Panim Yafot. Why they put this nikuda, this point? If a person all the time having guests, so what? I have already guests, I have 1,000. Just gonna, whatever, what do you want? Okay, just get what you need and that's it, just go. Right? That's our attitude. That means he did it, that was his mitzvah, and he did it 100% because he accepted everybody with a smile. But if you used to doing the same thing over and over, you get tired of people sometimes, right? Who is going to accept the people with a smile? To this chassid, they give him a separate room. He's able to sit and learn how much he wanted to do, how much he wanted to learn. In the same house, there was another rich guy came in to the house as a guest. Beautiful dress, smell beautiful. Balabait, this owner of this house, also gave him a separate room where he able to be as a guest. So everybody right now on the table, everybody having a dinner for Shabbos Kodesh. Shabbos Kodesh, right? Shabbat. The owner of the house, they finished the meal, he went back to sleep. The kids went to sleep. Everybody went to sleep. So who left out of all the people? The wife of this rich guy. Not the rich guy that is as a guest. The rich guy is the owner of this house. So she washes dishes, cleaning the house, nakot shulchan, cleaning the table. This rich guy that he invited to his house to be as a guest. He see everybody went to sleep, except the woman, she's not sleeping. שנשאר בחדר אוכל, she's cleaning in the kitchen. קמו בו לשם להתחיל לדבר איתו. Everybody went to room, he came out, and he started speaking to her. להיחלל על יופי. He starts, how beautiful you are. וכן ארכה, how much beautiful characters and traits you have. ושאל אותו כמה שאלות על בעל תשובי העיר. He says, what's happening in the city? Who is who? What is what? במה נתפרסם נתפרנסים ממשיך הדברך שחוק וקלות ראש. What people getting busy with, what kind of businesses they do. And they're giggling and laughing. עד כדי דיבור לדבר טובה אתה לדבר אבילה ישקף אצלה להיות אימא. Until the conversation, after the conversation, then they came to the conversation where he wants to do a sin with her, sleep with her. וטען לאותה מעלה, אני שמעתי שהאווירה זה איסור. She tells him, I know this type of sin is forbidden. אשת שהיא אווירה חמורה מאוד. Sleeping with somebody else's wife is very bad sin. איך תבקש ממני כדבר הזה? The lady saying, how can you ask me do such a sin? ואמר לה, he tells her, גם אני יודע חמור עוון הזה. He says, I know also this sin is very bad. אך דע לך שזה רק מישהו עם הארץ. He says, somebody is a not learner, that's a bad avira. That's a bad sin. But somebody is a learner, it's not a bad sin. אבל האיש כמוני שהוא למדן. He says, I'm a learner. יש תיקון לקרוא תהילים פעמיים כמניין כפרה. He says, if you read Tehillim 2 times, is numerical value of kapara, which is forgiveness. לומד 10 דפים זוהר, you're going to learn 10. I'm going to learn 10 pages of Zohar, which just means I'm going to read 2 times Tehillim. I'm going to read 10 pages of Zohar. And all the sins that I did with you, everything will be forgiven. ועשה פדיון נפש בסך 160 פרוטה. He says, I'm going to do פדיון נפש also. 160 silver coins, and my sins will be forgiven. That means Tehillim, 10 pages of Zohar, and 160 silver coins. אז יתקן פגע נמחה עוון כללי. He says, whatever the sin mean you're going to do, everything will be erased. האישה שתקה לא ענתה לו על זה. The woman, she did not answer him nothing. וחסיד בהיות חדר היה, סמוך לחדר אור שמע את השיחה, דיבור עשיר האורח. The chassid that took upon himself galut, he hears all the conversation going back and forth, back and forth. Okay? Going back and forth, back and forth. The chassid is inside the room listening to everything. Okay? ואיחר מאוד, חשש אולי יקוצה דעתה את האישה תאמין דבריו. Maybe the woman, she will believe him, whatever he's saying. ויעבוד דבר רצו לשכב עמה. Maybe she's going to have a relationship with him. מיד קם בזהירות, כארי לקח מלתחה שלו, נרות והרבה, והדליק אותם כולו עד שהאיר את כל הבית להתחיל ללמוד צעקות רמות. What he did, he light everywhere lights in his room from the candle, and he started learning loud. שיר את כל הבית להתחיל ללמוד צעקות ברעות האיש כן, אמרה בליבה, אולי יקומו משטרים. He says, the way he's screaming, everybody right now going to wake up. The woman says, צעקות של החסיד, אולי גם בעלי להתעורר. He says, maybe my husband also wake up. ויראה אותו וישוב לבדה מדוד עין האורח. She ran away, ran to her room. He ran away, right away to his room. לא עשו, didn't do nothing. לכן קמה הלכה לחדר שקבה, אשר אורח הרע עליו מאוד על החסיד. This rich guy, he got very upset at this chassid. בסדר בינינו, לא נעשה עצתו. He wanted to sin, but his sin, his advice did not went through. מנע לעשות זמרה, נפרדו חבילה של היצר הרע. What he did, he broke the יצר הרע, the chassid. באים ברירה קם והלך את משכבו. He had no choice but to go to sleep in his bed. ויהי בוקר אכל התפירה שחרית. בא בעל הבית ואשתו בני ביתו חדר אוכל בשביל פת שחרית. Everybody woke up after the shacharit, table, breakfast. ויגום גם חסיד. The rich guy is there, the chassid is there. Everybody is there. ויאמר אל הבית דע שאני חכם. ויאמר אל בעל הבית דע שאני חכם, שאני מבקש שיזמין אותי לסעודה פת שחרית עמכם. So following says, ויאמר אל בעל הבית, the rich guy says, I'm very smart and knowledgeable. אני מקווה שסעודת פת שחרית עמכם. The chassid also says, invite me for the breakfast for the morning. כדי שאומר דברי תורה על שולחן. The chassid says, invite me, so I could say דברי תורה in a שולחן, in a table. בעל הבית הסכים לדברי חסיד. בעל הבית agree with the chassid. ברוד שהוא הגו בתורה כל הזמן, he saw the בעל הבית, he's all the time learning. The chassid is not stop learning. וספר, בספר פתוח לפניו ויזמין אותו. חסיד is learning, the book is open. באמצע סעודה תבקש חסיד לומר דברי תורה. Chassid now is asking himself, that took galus upon himself, let me say דברי תורה. באמצע סעודה תבקש חסיד, יפתח פי בחוכמה. What did he say the חסיד? וינר המרא אמרו חז"ל. He says the first thing Chazal says. מסכת עירובין, page 18, עמוד ב'. מנוח עם הארץ היה. מנוח, okay, they say he was not learner. עם הארץ, that's what it says מסכת עירובין. What does it mean? וילך אחר אשתו. Manoach, when instead of, we have a halacha, we need to go in front of the woman, not behind the woman. Okay? We have a halacha, we're not allowed to go, even a wife, his own wife, not allowed to go behind her. He needs to go in front of her. In American world, the husband's in the behind, the wife's in the front. In a Jewish world, the husband is in the front, the wife is in the back. Okay? So Manuach, they say he was Ama Aretz. Chazal says because he went behind her. He was walking behind her. That's his wife. Not a lot of people know that's his wife. He's walking behind a woman, not allowed. Some says Manoach went after his wife, which just means whatever she told him, he did. Which is whatever she was talking to him advice, like someone says, my wife says, and that's it. That's a black stone, right? You can't move it. How just because he went behind his wife, he's not learned, the Chazal says. A man is not allowed to go behind his wife, which just means she's walking in the front back. Chazal says, Yetzer Hara is the biggest tricker in the world. Ramai, liar, tricks people. אולם כוונה יצר הרע רמאי גדול הוא, אותם יפתה את בני אדם, מסית אותם לדבר עבירה. יצר הרע makes a person to do a sin. ואמר להם, אף על פי אסור אשת איש. Says, even though you're not allowed to have a relationship with somebody else's wife, חמור ביותר, even it's a big sin. יש תיקון לזה. You have a big tikkun on it. You have a big kabbalist in the neighborhood. He would do for you every sin is going to be forgiven. You're going to read 2 times Kaparat Tehillim. You're going to do 10 pages of Zohar. You're going to do Pidyon HaBen, Pidyon HaNefesh, and that's it. You're good enough. That's what the Yetzer Hara says. באוב תהילים פעמיים כמניין כפרה, 10 דפים זוהר, פדיון נפש, 160 פרוטות נסלח לכם. בזה ירפה, שבר על נקלה. לעשות המזמתה שקף עם אשת איש. He would do everything that a person could do a sin with somebody else's wife. אך מנוח לא נפתה לעשות כן. Why did Manoach did not do it? Because he does not says, I'm going to first do a sin, then I'm going to do this tikkunim. That's what it means, Ama Aretz. ולא בנה את רהבית ושתיז כזב, רק אחר אשתו ולא אחר נשים אחרות. What does it mean that now Manoach היה Ama Aretz? He did not go, he went after his woman, after his wife. The Chazal says, after his wife, not after anybody else's wife. כי עם הארץ היה, לא ידע ללמוד זוהר ותיקון עוון הזה. He was Am Haaretz. He did not know how to learn Zohar and to make a tikkunim after the sin. Tavar gizeze yasmiku pnei ashir oreach nafchu le'le'akon. So basically, the Chassid indirectly hinted to this rich guy that wanted to do sin with the oreach, which just means in a guest house with his wife. The woman heard the words, and the man heard the words. He thought the Chassid is going to say everything whatever the conversation they had between this rich guy and his wife. לספר לו מה ששמע פתאום עורך לאשתו של הבעל הבית. גם אשתו שמעה דברי חסיד שסביב בטוב טעם ודעת, דברי הבל, דברי העשיר האורח. She understand how much this rich guy trying to do sin with her, and is nothing that whatever he did not make any sense on it. חס ושלום, not any sense to make a sin. הכל מעצת היצר הרע. Everything is device יצר הרע. ביום שדרך פעמיו ייסע משם ועקבותיו לא נדעו. He says the Chassid never opened the secret. He went his path. The rich guy went his path, and nobody seen him afterwards. וישמח חסיד שעל ידי נמנע אווירה חמורה מאשת בעל הבית. The Chassid was very happy that he would prevent somebody not to sin. So he was preventing people to do this type of Avira of Eshet Ish. How much is it important to learn, and how much important to refrain from people doing sin. And we have to be happy. How many people that we refrain from doing sin? People sinning, we're refraining them, we're supposed to be happy. We save them. We save them from what? From the fire. Imagine a person is going to go in the fire. He turns on the oven or he turns on the gas and he says, I'm putting my hand, and you're saving it. How much happy you have to be. So that's the way we have to be happy. So what's the moral of the story? What? So the Chazal says in Masechet Kiddushin, I think in Masechet Shabbat, Kabdeu Shachdeu. Kabdeu, you have to give him respect, but you also have to be suspect. You cannot bring everybody to your house. Okay? They're not looking at you that they're coming to you as a guest. They're looking at the wife, at the kids, what's happening around, how many chandeliers you have, what do you have. They're checking out the whole house. They're not checking what is the point they're coming to the house. To Divrei Torah, all right? Ahava v'achva. You're right. The Chazal says you have to be careful who you invite to your house. Can't invite everybody and anybody.
Not talk to people's wives. I'm not sure why you
What?
not supposed to talk to people's wives.
Oh, Yetzer Hara, he's aluf olam. He just said it.
Leave the house.
אחד שוגד ואחד מזיד בחילול השם. One does purposely and one does unintentionally desecrating God's name. What does it mean? Vita b'kiddushin. A lot of us, we go in the streets, right? We take out the kippah like we work for FBI. Why? Because he wants to. His identity needs to be undercover. Why he does it? Because he does not want to show his identity. Because he's working for the feds. So why else you want to take out the kippah walking on the street? What's the difference if Hashem is on the street or in a Bet Knesset or Bet Midrash or in a house? I heard some stuff that is, I think, not dumb, but I think it's very dumb. He says, my roof, my ceiling is the kippah for myself. Okay? I did not heard this type of halacha. Ita ba Kiddushin, Masechet Kiddushin says, one echad shogeg ve'echad mezid. One does purposely and one does unintentionally and unintentional chilul Hashem. Desecrating God's name. Masechet Kiddushin, page 40. Tznan hatam, en makifim bechilul Hashem, echad shogeg ve'echad mezid. En makifim, amar marzuta, shen osim kechenvani makif la'adam pa'amim rabot, achar כך גובה את הכיפות ביחד. He says, A person who goes in a store, he takes it inside the bag, right? He puts everything in a basket. At the end, he needs to pay for it. אין עושים כן מעלה מחלל השם, נפרעים ממנו מיד. פירוש רבנו יוסף בר יהודה, כתב זה לשונו. רבי יצחק בר ראובן, פירוש שבחילול השם נידון אדם הוא שוגג כמזיד. If a person desecrates God's name, whether it's intentionally or unintentional, it's still considered חילול השם. Desecrating God's name. ואינו נכון, כי לא מצינו שהדין שוגג כמזיק בהדרגה אחד. Chazal says it's not the same thing. Has to be unintentionally and has to be intentionally. אלא תמיד מזיד חמור מן השוגג. He says intentionally, much greater sin that somebody does unintentionally. כאן פירוש נכון ששניהם שווים רק לעניין נפרעים ממנו בגלוי. Says intentional and not intentional is the same, but how is that הקדוש ברוך הוא will repay him? אם היה מזיד נפרעים ממנו עונש עושה במזיד. If he does it purposely, they punish him very bad. How? שוגג נפרעים ממנו עונש עושה בשוגג. So if a person does unintentionally חילול Hashem, desecrating God's name, they're going to punish him according to that. Somebody does intentionally, they're going to punish him according to whatever the intentional חילול Hashem he did. לאנשים בחמורה לא ייתכן למר כן. גם הרמב"ם בפירוש משנה, לא נפרעים ממנו על שוגג כמזיד. Rambam says, it's not the same thing that somebody does intentionally and non-intentional. חלילה ישר דרכי השם יתברך לשוות שוגג כמזיד. חס ושלום, he says, you need to compare intentional חילול השם, desecrating God's name, intentionally and unintentionally is the same. No. דבר מן הדברים, אלא כוונה אף שוגג, נפרעים ממנו בגלוי, כל אחד יש עונש כפי עוונו. Each person, according to his sin, that's how much his punishment is. רואה את זה במדרש שמואל, נראה שגם מה שאמרו ביומא. מסכת יומיים, page 86 says following. אם חטא בחילול השם, somebody desecrated God's name publicly, תשובה ויום כיפור וייסורים תוליים. He says תשובה, he needs to do repentance on חילול השם. Yom Kippur, ve'isurim, which just means the punishments is going to be coming up on him. Umita mimareket avon, and death is going to complete his sin, whatever the chilul Hashem is. Ne'emar ki yichupar avon hazeh, he says his sin will be forgiven, ad yimotan, until he's going to die. Ze davka b'choteh b'mezid b'chilul Hashem. He did a sin, transgress God's name publicly, intentionally. יגיד עליו ראהו בחוטא של עוון כרת או מיתת בית דין, שהתשובה מיום כיפור תולים וייסורים ממרקים. He says, if the karet, there's a Mishnah in Masechet Kritot, in the beginning of Mishnah, in the Talmud, Masechet Kritot, 36 Kritot a person has, which is Lo Ta'aseh, and 2 Aseh, which is Brit Milah and Korban Pesach. So he says, if a person have a karet upon him, he needs to do tshuva, Yom Kippur, V'yisurim needs to go. Difficulties and suffering needs to come to him. Shenamar pagati b'shed pashem nagim avonam. He says his leprosy and his sins will be forgiven, but he's going through the difficulty, which just means problem, leg problem, chas v'shalom, body parts of the problem, sicknesses. הרי גם פסוק לא אומר חטאתכם אלא פושעם. היה במזיד דווקא. Person considered criminal that somebody does intentionally sin. אבל בשוגג נמחה לא ביום כיפור. But if somebody does unintentionally, Yom Kippur will forgive him. בלי ייסורים, without going through suffering and pain. כתב הרמב"ם בפירוש המשנה שם, רמב"ם like says, והדין לגבי עוון חילול השם כהימנה שאינו מכפר עד המיתה. Somebody desecrated God's name publicly and did intentionally, until his death, he's not going to get clean. דווקא במזיד, Chazal says, if he does intentionally. אבל בשוגג מכפר ביום כיפור. If somebody does unintentionally desecrating God's name, יום כיפור is going to forgive. שכלל בכלל מה שכתוב מהחטאתכם לפניהם השם תטהרו. Says your sins in front of the Hashem, you're going to be clean. ויש חיסרון בלשון רמב"ם. בחילול השם מיתה ממרקת, אז זה ביהיה את הפסוק, אם יכופר עוון זה לכם עד ימתון. Says, his sin is going to be forgiven, חילול השם until he dies. כי איתה בגמרא, על זה חוזר מה שתיים, כל שעובר ברצונו, וכופר על חילול השם בעשר קידוש השם. How a person is supposed to be forgive for his sin of חילול השם? Desecrating God's name publicly. Do Kiddush Hashem. Kiddush Hashem, which just means sanctifies God's name publicly. So Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem. So B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem give us, so we could do Kiddush Hashem, B'ezrat Hashem. Baracha, Tzlacha, Briyut. Thank you for coming. Toda Rabba al Akshava. Thank you for listening. V'chen yiratzon v'nomar. Amen. You all daven Aravit already? You all did Aravit already?